CNN political reporter Elena Treen is now joining us live from New Jersey. Elena, what does this mean for Trump in the run-up to the 2024 elections and his own bid to come back to power once again?
Right. Well, he is facing a series of legal troubles. This is his third indictment in the past several months, and we are expecting a potential additional indictment in Georgia. And so legally, he has a long road ahead of him, but politically, it is not seeming to impact his standing. If anything, it's having the opposite effect, which is to boost him in the 2024 race. Currently, Donald Trump is the frontrunner for the Republican presidential nomination in 2024. His polling currently puts him ahead of his other Republican rivals, and his base and his supporters are very much rallying around him and are behind him on this. And so politically, so far it has not had an effect. Of course, that could change in months from now. We have not yet seen a potential trial in this case, and that could definitely affect his standing. But also, just to go back to the legal part of this, I think that this specific indictment that was filed on Tuesday night is one of the most damaging in the eyes of Donald Trump and his advisors. I've spoken with many members of Donald Trump's team, and they are very much concerned about this. And Donald Trump himself is personally very worried about what these charges could mean for him. But as of now, their top strategy is to try and delay a potential trial until after the 2024 election. And for now, one of their key lines of defense is to argue that any of these charges really are amounting to election interference and getting in the way of his presidential campaign.
And Trump, of course, is expected to appear in a federal courthouse in Washington, D.C. on Thursday. What are we expecting on that day, and what are his supporters, his base, as you call them, what are they planning to do in the run-up to and on that day?
Right. So Donald Trump is expected to appear in person at the federal court in Washington, D.C. on Thursday. His team has not yet confirmed them. When I spoke to them last, they said that they're still finalizing the details of what his court appearance will look like. But we are told that he is expected to arrive in person. And that is a huge deal. He will be returning to Washington, D.C., the same place where a lot of these charges stem from, which is circling around January 6th and the attack on the U.S. Capitol in 2021. Now, as for his supporters, already we're seeing security in Washington, D.C. be ramped up. They are expecting some of Donald Trump's supporters to come to the courthouse and stand outside, both in protest of the charges, others protesting Donald Trump's behavior, given it is in D.C. and many Democrats live there. And so I think it will be a very chaotic scene on Thursday. But his supporters, as I mentioned, are very much behind Donald Trump. I spoke with many of them at a rally over the weekend where they told me that they don't think that he did anything wrong, and they use the same rhetoric describing these charges that Donald Trump has been using, which is that they think that he is a victim of political persecution and that he is also a victim of an unfair justice system.
And finally, what are the other Republican contenders saying about this? Are they looking at this indictment? I believe this is the third major case in which Trump has been indicted. Are they looking at this as ammunition for a political attack against Trump, or are they still reluctant about targeting Trump?
Well, you're seeing both, to be honest. There are some Republican candidates, including former Congressman Will Hurd of Texas, as well as former New Jersey Governor Chris Christie. They are two Republican presidential candidates who are leaning in to the attacks on Donald Trump. They are arguing that the charges that he is facing in these three separate cases disqualify him from being president and that he should not be running for president in light of his legal troubles. However, the majority of the 2024 Republicans that are running against Donald Trump are not touching these claims. They do not want to talk about his legal issues. They do not want to talk about the indictments that have been brought against him. They are trying to avoid really anything that could alienate some of Donald Trump's voters, many of the people who support him, and they recognize that the likely need of many of Donald Trump's supporters in order to win in their own elections ahead of 2024.
All right, Elena Treen, live for us from New Jersey tonight. Thanks very much for joining us here on Brass Tacks. And Trump, of course, amongst the Republican pack at least, seems to have a healthy lead over his Republican rivals. Whether or not the indictment that happened Tuesday will have an impact on that, whether it will be negative to Trump or whether it will further rally his base, we'll know in the next few days. That's a wrap. Thanks very much for tuning in. I'll catch you again tomorrow night, same time. Good night.